Squatch.
How's it going, Josh? This is Jim.
All right, Jim. How are you going on?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited about our episode today because two of our dearest friends are on with a really incredible story.
It will be doing fine if I don't stumble anymore for the rest of the episode there.
There you go. There you go.
So tell me a little bit about our guest today.
Yeah, our guests are Jim and Diana Urland. Now, they live here in Colorado. They live in Aurora, down the hill, as we say.
Down the way.
Those of us up the hill, they live down the hill. But I've known them for several years, and they've been good friends. They have been probably some of our most faithful attendees of any event that we have, and they're part of our Sasquatch Outpost Research Team. And a couple of years ago, they had one of the most incredible experiences with Sasquatch Encounters that I've ever heard. And they agreed to come on the show today. And I am glad because I've been trying to get them on the show, and we finally worked out our schedules, and we got them today.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that. So what do you say we go to the phone lines?
Let's go to it.
Your call will be answered in the order it was received.
So, hey, Jim. Is it just you, or are you there with Diana?
I'm here.
Great. Well, glad to have both of you on our show. You Don't Know Squatch. I've been wanting to get you on for a while, so glad it finally worked out.
Well, good.
So, and this is my co-host, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Josh. How are you?
All right.
Josh is our resident skeptic, so we're going to try and convince him even more today in this interview. So you're on the line. Your reputation is on the line.
No.
Well, I got to tell you, I love resident skeptics.
There you go. There you go. Hey, in fact, Jim and Diana and my wife and I were all together last week at the Society for Psi Research and Education up in Loveland. I spoke on Bigfoot, and Jim and Diana gave their testimony, and we had a good crowd. It was probably, 30 people, 35 maybe?
Yeah.
They were sitting in the hallway.
Yeah, they were out in the hallway. It was a good crowd.
It was a good group, and it was a lot of fun. So we do more than just Squatch together. We do some speaking together, and it's fun. It's good.
Good deal. Was it? It sounds like it was just more than just Sasquatch too.
Oh, we were just talking on Sasquatch. This group talks about all topics related to. I think they have a guy coming on. They were advertising a talk tomorrow on something. Do you remember what it was on Friday night? What they were advertising in Boulder? There was another talk. There was a panel of people talking about.
Oh yeah, it wasn't Bigfoot. It was.
No, it wasn't Bigfoot. It was psychic something, I believe, but. Anyway, they cover a lot of ground, a lot of different areas. They have people come in and talking about even diet and stuff. But they just had never had anyone talk on Sasquatch. So it was a packed house. I'm telling you, Bigfoot draws a crowd. Everywhere we go, Bigfoot draws a crowd.
They do. And they asked a lot of really good questions.
They did. They were very insightful, the questions they asked. So anyway, we're here to talk Sasquatch today, being our show You Don't Know Squatch. And so Josh, Jim, and Diana are part of our team, the Sasquatch Outpost Research Team, or SORT. And we meet together regularly as a group and talk about what anyone has had as far as experiences. And they've been doing a lot of research just outside of Bailey, off of the Payne Gulch Trail and that direction, heading back towards Lost Creek Wilderness.
Oh, I know that area. It's kind of thick back there.
It gets kind of thick, and they've had gifting area back there, and so they are. But they've been squatching longer than me. So, Jim, Diana, tell us a little bit about how you got started with this. This is kind of a fun story.
Well, we were. This was in 1989.
They're 89. See, they go back.
We were watching a show called Unsolved Mysteries. It was hosted by Robert Stack at the time, it was quite a different unsolved mysteries than what you see now. And we saw a story on there about a guy named Dan Messias that lives in Green Mountain Falls, Colorado. And when the Green Mountain Falls came up, it really sparked our interest because obviously we're here. And I knew where Green Mountain Falls is, and it's not that far away. And Dan had seen two of them walk in front of his house one winter. His son witnessed them. He got pictures of the tracks, and he had displayed those in a store down in town for a while. And we decided to go down and look him up. And we got him to come outside and talk to us a little bit about it. And Dan is an interesting guy. He's been squatching a long time, and he has experiences around his house and up on that mountain behind his house quite frequently. Last time we talked to him, he claimed to have pictures of an actual group that was on the road out in front of his house.
Huh. Did you see the pictures? Or?
We didn't see the pictures. He was Dan's a little. He's very private, and we talked. And the first time we talked to him, we actually did get to go in his house and talk a little bit. But we didn't have time. We were kind of pressed for time that day. We had a meeting to go to, and we thought we'd just go up there and see if we could coax him into coming to the meeting. And so we were a little pressed for time, so we didn't see the pictures. So Dan, when we talked that day, he talked about things that had happened around his house and to his neighbors. And he was so adamant about when we went hiking down there in that area, he wanted us to check in with him and let him know how long we were going to be gone, and please check in with him when we came back down the mountain. Because he, apparently it has some dangerous situations go on behind his house, and not exactly favorable on that note, but he was interested in making sure that we were safe.
And is his house way up on the mountain behind Green Mountain Falls?
Yes, it is. It's on one of the roads. It's a fairly rough road that goes up to his place. And there's cabins placed strategically in the hillside, and he's a ways up the mountain there from Green Mountain Falls. Not a long ways, but he's up on the hill. This
is off topic, but how in the world did Unsolved Mysteries ever find this guy in Green Mountain Falls?
They got a good researcher.
Well, I'm not real sure. I don't know how you get hooked up with Unsolved Mysteries. He was quite. He was real adamant about advertising that, and letting the world know, letting people know. Pictures of it. He had footprints, and I'm not sure how he got hooked up with them. To tell you the truth,
One of their producers probably saw it in a news article or something and reached out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They used to have a wooden Bigfoot statue in front of what used to be the bar.
Yeah.
And somebody said that they saw a female Squatch that used to stand in the river that runs along the road in the mornings.
Uh-huh.
And so maybe that's how it all got started.
Could be, but of course, why I'm interested in Green Mountain Falls, because that's where we host our Mile High Mystery Conference last year, and again this coming September. So
what a good place to do it.
It's a great place. It's a great place. There's a history in that little town.
It's a great place.
So we hope some of our listeners will check out the conference site at milehighmysteryconference.com. But yeah, we'll be back again in September, and hopefully you guys are going to be there with us, right?
We'll be there.
Absolutely. And the thing that is so important about that too is this is just a Squatch thing. There's several people that speak, and they speak on different topics, and these are people that have been doing research for a very long time.
It'll be a great conference, but I digress. We're here to hear one of your stories because you got quite a few, but I wanted to have you tell the story about your experience that you told the other night. I think our listeners would find it fascinating.
Oh, I did want to ask real quick. What was your what was the convincing factor for you from that gentleman's story?
That's a good question. Yeah.
From Dan's story?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did Dan say that made you a believer?
Or were you already believers, or were you even thinking about Bigfoot back then?
Well, he talked about some of the signs, as he has squatched in the past, some of the signs to look for in the mountains. I've been in these hills in Colorado for over 50 years, and I've seen these signs, and I never knew what they were about. They're mysterious, and they're kind of out of place as far as a regular human would go, and I never knew what they were. And when he talked about it, it all came together. And then I understood what these signs meant and, what to look for. And I saw pictures of the footprints, and Dan was very compelling. And he showed a track line in front of his house early in the morning, and it went all the way down the road. And it absolutely fit the description or the regular, what you would expect to see a Sasquatch, the regular track line that they make.
Yeah, knowing what you know now, when you look back, you would still say, yeah, that was real.
Oh, I absolutely. I believe him 100%, and especially after he talked about the signs. Because like I said, I'd seen him fishing and hunting. I bushwhack a lot, and I'd seen these things and didn't know what they were about. And when he talked about it, it just set me off. And I thought, I really want to look into this and start looking around.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I was just curious about that.
Yeah. So let's move to your story. And this happened, how long ago, this particular story?
It's been about 2 years, Jim.
Okay. So just bring us in to what happened. And you can both be on, however, like you did the other night, if you want, whatever you want to do.
Okay. We hike down there frequently on a certain trail. We had a gifting spot on that trail. And this one day, we were down there with our grandchildren, and we hiked quite a ways back in, and without incident, we were on our way back out. And I'd always told my grandchildren, as I tell my kids, I'm a hunter. I bow hunt and rifle hunt. And I told them, I said, you have to stop and look carefully under the trees, look around, look behind you especially. I caught game sneaking past the trail or sticking their head out to look as I walked by. And I told them, always look behind. So we were walking down the trail, and we were a ways from the truck still, up on the hill, up on the mountain. And our granddaughter had turned around and stopped and looked, and she says, there he is, I see him. I see him, there he is. And she's looking through binoculars. She says, there he is, I see him, don't you see him? And so everybody's looking, and we couldn't see right away, so I threw the glasses up, and I'm looking. And she says, there he is underneath the tree. And I'm looking, and sure enough, there was a very dark-colored one, big, dark-colored. Couldn't make out if it was a male or a female right away because it was squatting on the ground with one arm up on a tree and the other one on the ground. Well, after she had the sighting, she got excited and ran back with the rest of the family, and they're back there talking. They're trying to see, but nobody else had binoculars. So I would say this thing was about 70 yards away, and it was very hard to see with the naked eye. So they didn't really get a good look. But I was looking through the glass, and this Sasquatch stood up and turned toward the tree. It swung its arm that was on the ground as if to gain momentum to stand up. And very long arms, very long hair on the forearms, huge hands, very big wide chest. It looked like his head was just sitting down on the top of his shoulders.
Was he facing you initially?
Facing us initially, and then it stood up, turned toward the tree, which I thought was rather odd, and walked back away from us. Now, there was a grove of trees on the right and a grove on the left that was pretty thick with some deadfall lying in front of it. This guy walked away from us a short distance, back behind these trees, and the trees there was a lot of shading and a lot of shadows because the sun was getting low, but behind it was an open, what I call an open field. It was just like grasses, and the sun was actually shining on it. It was a blustery day. The wind was blowing, just swirling all around. As this guy walked away, and this is the part that this part kind of changed my life, because I had questions about things that go on. I had questions about quantum mechanics and what goes on up there that I don't understand, things that I hear, things that I see, feelings that I have. As this guy walked away, there was a shimmer that started out as a circle, surrounded him. It enclosed, and it collapsed in on itself, and as it got to the center, this guy vanished. So it vanished right in front of our eyes.
Not like ran away, it just wasn't there anymore.
No, it did not run away. It continued its gait as it walked back toward this meadow. It didn't turn into the trees. It continued to walk straight away, and this shimmer engulfed it, and it just vanished. Now that I have heard Dr. John Brandenburg talk about the possibility of vortexes on this planet, I feel validated because we saw that. And then another one stepped out on the left side in the trees, stepped out to where we could see it. The sun was actually shining on it. It was quite different looking, taller, bigger. The hair was blowing wildly. It had long hair on the top of its head. Some facial hair, but not a lot. Thicker hair on the shoulders and on the forearms, but the hair was kind of thin on the upper arms, a little bit thinner on the chest and the abdomen. I could actually see its nipples. I could see it was a male. I could see its belly button. I could see the abdominal muscles. And it stood there, and very thin hair, but there was some. I noticed some white tufts or gray tufts of hair on the top of its shoulders and on the top of its head. It stood there and glanced up toward the sun, and I saw a glint in its eyes. It was sort of a dark brownish glint in its eyes. Other than that, I couldn't see them because it had a very pronounced brow line that covered its eyes up on the top. And to me, it looked like a cross between a Native American and a Neanderthal being. Very broad shoulders. It was bigger than the first one. I would say this was 8 to 9 feet tall.
I was going to ask you how tall you thought it was.
And the deadfall cut him off right at the belly button, so I didn't really see any more. Stood there for a moment, looked at us, and I stood there just paralyzed with my binoculars. And I watched it. I didn't want to get out my phone. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to take my eyes off of it because of the hundreds of testimonies that I'd read about and heard about where you take your eyes off and look back and they're gone. This was all racing through my head, and I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, if he wanted to close the gap between us and come after me, I wouldn't have a prayer because it was so big. But it didn't make me feel threatened. It didn't make me feel intimidated. It was like he showed himself for a reason, for a purpose, and then stepped back into the trees where he came from.
And Jim, would you say that he knew you were there?
Absolutely, because when we walked by, she was looking back, and these two were standing in the trees. We didn't see the first one right away until it stepped out. But this one was kneeling under a tree watching us as we walked down the trail. Okay. Had we not turned around... I'm sorry, that's my weather radio going off.
Okay. Oh, no.
No worries.
That sounded alien in itself.
Yeah, we were wondering what alien was going on there.
I thought we were getting cut off right now.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we got weather going on up here, and my radio's going bonkers. As we turned around and looked, they were watching.
Okay.
And yes, I do feel like that, and I feel like there was a purpose in this. Every time we'd gone up there, we'd made some sort of contact or some sort of connection. And that time, we actually had a look. What I want to do, and not a lot of people understand it, but I actually want to make contact. I believe it's possible. I want to make contact. And I believe this is a step in that direction. This is all...
I mean, you had contact. Let's face it, you had contact that day. It just wasn't close. It was 70, 80 yards away. Close enough for you at the time, right?
Oh, yeah. Close enough for me at the time. Because I wish I wouldn't have been frightened there for a minute, but I was. And I didn't, it was no fault of theirs. It was my own fear because they did nothing to intimidate us or make us feel threatened.
Let me just ask you this. Our listeners will wonder why I'm asking about. How tall are you, Jim?
I'm 6'2".
6'2", and you're a big guy. I don't remember what you weigh, but
I'm about 255.
255. So, and you said that this second one, well, both of them, but especially the second one that stepped out, dwarfed you. You thought?
Yes.
9 feet's tall.
9 feet is really tall.
That's like that's almost a story of a house. What do they normally build them at? 12, 10?
And you said to me in the past, you never even thought of running, and why was that?
I made up my mind a long time ago that I'm not going to run.
But even if you had, what was your thought that day? There was something you said that was, to me, significant.
Well, I don't know. I didn't know at the time what the purpose was. I know that predators, that's the best way to touch them off is to run away. If you start running away, they're going to pursue.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like even if I ran, it would do any good. I probably would have got 10 yards and it would have been on me. Had it wanted to do that, it would have been futile.
It could have closed that gap way too fast, you thought.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no way. I feel like it would have contacted me in no time.
Yeah.
But that's the last thing I want to do. If it would have came toward me, I think I would have stood pat. I want to see how close they want to get. I don't believe we're going to make contact for a while, but I honestly would have stood still. I want to see how close they'll get.
So your experience that you're describing sounded a little more peaceful, but when we started off the podcast and we were talking about Dan's experience, it sounded a lot more violent. Why do you think that would be?
Well, Dan tells me that it wasn't necessarily a violent situation. What happened was there was hikers apparently behind his house up on the trail. The wife had sprained her ankle, and the husband went down the hill to try to round up help for her because she couldn't walk, and he could not carry her. He chose to leave and go try to find help. He got help, and when they got back, she was gone. There was no trace of her, and she's never been found.
So this was a hiker behind Dan's house?
Yes.
I wonder if Dave Pilates knows about that disappearance.
I don't know. I really don't know. But I don't know now. He, in telling me that, he insinuated that they were responsible, that a Squatch might have been responsible for that. Now, after I know what I know, I don't. It's hard to say when you do the research and you talk to people. This is one of those things that is so on the fence. Are they responsible? Aren't they responsible? What is going on? After what I've seen, I know that they'll disappear off the face of this planet. That doesn't mean that anybody else couldn't do that. I think with the disappearances that have happened, if people research this and find out if they look into the national parks and the wildlife in the wilderness areas and see exactly how many people have disappeared in each state, all over the United States, it's frightening. It's disturbing.
Yeah.
So he decided that it was the Squatch that was responsible. At the time, I kind of bought into it, but now I'm not so sure.
But that story, if that story is true, if his wife truly disappeared,
yes,
that should be verifiable. I mean, there should be a police report on that.
Police report or
something.
It should be. It would be worth doing the research. I never did it. I took his word as face value.
We could look into that. Just Green Mountain Falls Sheriff, what's the sheriff's department over there?
I don't know what county.
I think it's El Paso.
It's between Woodland Park and
I'm pretty sure it's El Paso.
Manitou Springs. So maybe, but
we'll have to look into that one.
We will.
That's an interesting story.
Yeah,
but anyway,
that Green Mountain Falls and Chipeta Falls are neighboring little hamlets up there, and they're on the way to Woodland Park on Highway 24.
But did Dan say he'd never had a violent encounter, or that was what he thought may have been a violent encounter for those people?
He thought that they might have been responsible for that disappearance. Okay. And so just in general, he wanted us to be safe, so he wanted us to check in with them when we went hiking, just for that reason.
Of course, we know. Go ahead, Diana.
Sorry, Jim. There's a rock wall beside his house, and he said they used to sit on that rock wall at night and pound on the side of his house.
Huh.
Yeah,
according to him.
That's true. He's had experience where he had night lights that came on with motion behind his house. Apparently, these lights were 13 feet off the ground. The lights came on with motion. One morning, he went out back of his house, and every bulb that was in those lights was taken out of the sockets and neatly placed by his back door.
They didn't like those lights coming on.
Or that's just an example of gifting.
Yeah, this is their gifting. That's right.
Here, you can have this light back.
That's not the first time I've actually heard anything like that.
No, they're smart. If they were responsible for that, they're very smart.
He didn't have violent experiences. No, he never talked about them.
Because that, disappearance like that in Colorado, particularly of a woman by herself, could be a cougar. I mean, we know cougars take people.
Or as the police say, it could have been the husband.
Or the husband, yeah. We'll have to do some research on that one. But getting back to your story, Josh, my resident skeptic friend, what are your thoughts?
I just, I mean, I always, the more we hear these stories, I keep saying it all the time, but it's funny because all this reminds me of The Predator. Right?
The movie Predator, yeah.
Well, yeah, because the Predator disappears in plain sight and stuff like that.
Right.
It sounds similar to that. But
we're going to find out one day that Arnold was a Sasquatch believer.
I have to figure out who writes that and reach out to ask actually who wrote that. But, I mean, that's the first time I actually heard that on the show, though, like the shimmering.
Disappearance, shimmering. And, Jim, you said something the other night that you didn't mention today. You said that the way it disappeared, you believe it went through a portal. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's what we were saying earlier, like through the vortex kind of thing.
The vortex, yeah. Because it shimmered and then it was gone.
So
right.
Can you? I'm not very familiar with that aspect of Sasquatch yet, but can you explain the vortex a little bit? Like how does that work?
Well, I'm going to
theory.
Speaking of how it works, I don't have a clue, but I can give you a little bit of an explanation of what I heard on a show by David Whitus not long ago, as he talked with Dr. John Brandenburg, who was an astrophysicist. And he said due to some of his research, he believes that vortexes are possible. He also believes that they're not random. He believes they are controlled by a higher power. Now, when I talk about this story, a lot of times I say, was the Squatch capable of doing something like this at will? or is this something that's controlled by a higher power? Which leads me to believe that we're always being watched when we're up there one way or another. I don't know. I know what I saw, and I know that the story that I heard about a guy that disappeared on Mount Shasta that was investigated by David Paulides and Dennis Fall. They went up there and hiked it and looked at it and studied it and researched it. And they talked to lots of different people. They talked to the people that were with this guy. And he walked from one point to another point on Mount Shasta that was totally open.
In plain view.
Nope.
It would have been in plain view.
I'm sorry?
He would have been in plain view the entire distance.
Yeah, plain view the whole time. They just weren't watching him the whole time. So he walked from point A, started for point B. He never made it to point B. They went up there and thought that he would be there. He was not there. And he has vanished.
No trace of him was ever found.
No trace has ever been found of this guy.
Huh.
And it was a while back.
God, when they were on one of them, did they mention that?
And David's show Vanished, which came out last fall, that was one of the stories they... We haven't had David on this podcast.
We've had Dennis.
And Dennis may have mentioned. I think he did.
He might have mentioned that.
But that's funny. There's some folks came in our store recently, some ladies, and she said she was on her way to Mount Shasta, and I said, "Really? What are you going for?" She was going because of all the people. She says she knows people who have gone inside the earth at Mount Shasta. Now, take it at face value.
Like in a cave?
She didn't say how. And I said, what did they do when they were down there? And she said they interacted with the people or the beings under the earth. And I said, did they come back? I mean, obviously they came back out because they told her about it. And I said, well, there's a lot of people that disappear up on Shasta that never come back. And she goes, maybe they didn't want to come back. I said, yeah, that's a possibility. Maybe they couldn't come back, or whatever. But that was one thought that they had with this guy on David's show was he literally let the earth swallow him up. Huh. He was just not there.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard any of that. That's very
And they didn't find any clothing, his backpack, nothing. Everything was gone.
Well, I have read stories and heard testimony, and I get on the BFRO website and I read testimony from people that were total skeptics and scoffed at everything that had anything to do with Bigfoot. And they had an experience of their own that scared them so bad that it changed their life. And the way it changed it was, and a nurse said it best, who had a sighting at the base of Independence Pass. It was a nurse. She was, oh, poo-poo, that's just BS. And the day after the sighting, she said, and I think this is the most important part of this, she said that it brought into question everything that she thought she knew was right and wrong, everything she thought she knew that was real or not
unreal, yep,
or true or false. And now she thinks, well, hell, if that was, if I actually saw that and then she saw it up close, 40 yards away, then that's a possibility that some of these other things that people talk about, cryptids,
right,
and all these other things, they could possibly be true.
Right.
So they took someone that literally had a paradigm shift. They went from, I know everything, I think I got a handle on it, to, hey, wait a minute.
I don't know
Maybe I'm
anything.
not so smart after all.
Yeah.
Hey, well, that's the kind of skeptic I feel like I am. I can admit that all I know is that I don't know nothing.
There you go.
Hey, you know what? We all say that because when you do this research, the further you get into it, every time a question is answered,
That's
it just brings up more questions.
Brings up more questions.
I feel like that's science, right?
Sure.
In general.
Well, hey, I think we're getting close to our time, but listen, this has been awesome. I'm glad we took a couple of our tangents here because I think it added more to your story and maybe gave us some food for our future interviews.
Oh, yeah. And I really appreciate you letting me ask some questions.
Absolutely. I'm glad to, and I get a little emotional when I talk.
That's all right.
I
That's
know,
because
it's-
you're genuine, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, to me, that adds validity to what you're saying. Is
Yeah.
I didn't realize that there was such things that could actually happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I know that it's true. I know it's possible. So that opens up a whole new world of possibility to some of these disappearances and some of these things that people don't understand. And I saw it firsthand, and I know that it's true. And and I want to know more. I'll always want to make contact. I don't know if I'll live long enough to do that, but I'm going to keep trying.
And we're going to keep squatching together. So
yeah, and if Sasquatch is out there, I hope you do make contact.
Thank you. I hope so.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jim and Diana, for being with us today.
Yeah, and maybe we can have you on again sometime.
Yep. After your next sighting.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Wow. So that's crazy.
What do you think, Mr. Skeptic?
Portals.
Portals,
That's
disappearing Sasquatch, Neanderthal Sasquatch. Hey, we had it all today.
That is very interesting. I don't know what to say about that. I mean,
We even talked about some disappearing people, and we don't know. we brought it all in today, didn't we?
You know, I always go back to movies. That's me. But I remember this very vaguely. This movie about maybe there were mole people.
Oh, you know, there was a movie called Diggers. Did you ever see that movie? Old Western, where these things would come up from under the ground and grab people and pull them down under the ground. Really good Western.
I have to watch that.
Oh,
I
you
think
gotta
that
watch
might
it.
be
I
what
think
I'm thinking of.
I think it's Diggers. I think that's what it's called.
Because the movie I'm thinking of, like, I've looked up mole people and it's hairy people, but
No, these are kind
do
of
they
white,
kinda have-
creepy looking things.
do they have like gas masks kind of looking on their face?
Maybe, but you think when you start it off, it's just a real Western, and then they bring in. I gotta watch it again.
I gotta check that one out. I guess
It is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Would you say that's your plug this week? Is watch Diggers?
Yeah, if I got the name right. Hold on just a second. I'm going to check while we're sitting here just to double check the name of the movie that I got the right one. Let's see. Diggers movie.
I wanted to actually plug. God, what was the name of that website? It's the real famous one you guys all go to, but I've been pulling a lot of stories from it. It's the Bigfoot Research Organization.
Bigfoot BFRO. Bigfoot
BFRO.
Field Research Organization.
Yeah, I really recommend checking out this website, guys, if you're kind of interested in the subject matter. There's all sorts of stuff they collect there, and it seems to all be legit, you know.
You know, it's not Diggers. I got to look up the name. I must have that wrong.
We'll figure this one out.
We'll figure this one out. Anyway, it's a good movie when I figure out what the name is.
And guys, we want to remind you to be on the lookout for any backwoods updates.
You betcha. We're about to get ready with this movie.
Oh, it's getting exciting.
We are.
We've already set up the casting call. We're
Yep.
getting appointments done, so we can't wait for that.
Now we got a great location. I can't say yet where.
Yeah,
But it's gonna be it's gonna be awesome.
You don't want to upset the movie guys.
No, we
either.
don't. We don't.
But so you be on the lookout for that one. I guess that's it for this episode.
bet.
Except to remind you to look us up to wherever you get podcasts: Apple, Google, YouTube, whatever.
Give us some reviews. We love reviews.
Oh yeah, and send us some questions. We'd love to
get
get
some
more
questions.
That's fun answering the questions.
Yep.
So I guess that's it. So until next time.
You don't know Squatch.